is to treat everyone in the church alike. There may be an officer in the church who is a wealthy man and who has been good to the pastor. Perhaps he has bought the pastor a suit of clothes and helped him buy a new car. A pastor will often brag that such a man is a member of his church and he may not feel inclined to bring any charges against him, even though it is evident the man is guilty. Paul says that we are not to show partiality in the church. James said the same thing in James 2. And that concludes that section. Now we're going to move on to the last section, which is uh, section verse 22. And now, verse 22. Lay hands suddenly on no man, neither be partakers of other man's sins. Keep thyself pure. First Timothy chapter 5 and verse 22. We read we read earlier that the officers were to be installed by the laying on of hands. See First Timothy chapter 4 and verse 14. We saw that the laying on of hands indicated partnership in the ministry. The thought here is that this is not to be done suddenly, not to a neophyte, someone who has been recently converted. In Celebrate Recovery, we believe that you need to have 2 years of sobriety before you're a leader in Celebrate Recovery. Maybe we had that kind of um, guidelines for uh, church officers that you need to have been saved for 2 years before you can be a officer. Might be a good guideline. If we exalt a young Christian to the position of a teacher before he is thoroughly grounded in the Word, the theology he teaches is apt to be weird theology. The church ought to be a place of instruction where the Word of God is taught and men and women are built up in the faith. Instead, today we often develop what I call Alka Seltzer uh, Christians and Alka Seltzer churches. It's all fizz, foam, and froth, and a lot of emotions and a lot of talk about love, love, love. It is important that love is displayed in the church, but it needs to be anchored in the Word of God. Our mistake is that we often interpret some sort of experience as being the test of spiritual maturity. We've got the cart before the horse. The Word of God is the test, and experience can prove the truth of it. We can be certain that an experience which contradicts the clear teaching of the Bible is not from God at all. There were many young converts in the Ephesus area, and they needed teaching. It was a serious business for young Timothy to select the teachers and appoint them to teach the Word of God. Neither be partakers of any other man's sin. Keep thyself pure. In other words, don't compromise, Timothy. Don't let someone talk you into letting a young convert teach. You will be a partner in sin if you do. Make sure the teachers are anchored in the Word of God. That's another thing we do in Celebrate Recovery is before we allow somebody to give their testimony in our Celebrate Recovery, as ministry leaders will we have to have their testimony in writing, and they are instructed to faithfully follow what they have written and not depart from it. And so many times I will bypass it a little bit by going and hearing the testimony, make sure that the person doesn't become preachy or condemning. I've heard testimonies of where the attendees were shamed and or scared. The person tried to scare them into staying away from drugs and alcohol, and that does not necessarily work. Shame and guilt does not work with an addict, at least. So I I misspoke. That was not our last section. This is our last section.